Good morning, everyone. This morning I'm at the SAPOL Road Safety Centre at West Beach, launching a new road safety campaign, hoping to reduce the carnage on South Australian roads caused by younger drivers. As you can see behind me here, the campaign is very much focused on the impacts for young people, young drivers, after the excitement of getting their licence and some freedom to drive themselves around. A bit of a liberation of sorts that we've all experienced as younger drivers, to then lose your licence again because of either silly or stupid mistakes that they make on the road. Really, once you've got your licence, then losing your licence, we're saying, it sucks to be you. What we know is that over 80% of young drivers, so drivers aged between 16 to 24, 80% of those people are the people who've got an immediate loss of licence in 2024. So 16 to 24-year-olds are overrepresented when they lose their licence because of their driving behaviour on the roads. Also, what we know is it's predominantly younger males who are engaging in risky behaviour in our roads. There was approximately 885 immediate loss of licence, and 80% of those were young male drivers. And predominantly the offences that young male drivers had lost their licence was for drink and or drug driving. So there are some serious risks that the most inexperienced of our drivers on our roads are taking, and the consequences is that they are losing their licence in record numbers. What we want the younger drivers to think about is when you lose your licence because of an error or a stupid decision that you've made on the road, how are you going to get to work? How are you going to feel about mum or dad dropping you off to sport or footy practice? How are you going to feel about that date that you might have had that you were looking forward to, that you then have to have a chaperone to drive you to and pick you up from? These are all consequences that we know have an impact on younger drivers. In fact, some of these consequences, the embarrassment of losing your licence and having to be dependent upon your parents or your friends or your relatives again to get you around, or even being back on public transport. It's a heavy price to pay after you've just got your licence. So the campaigns are specifically targeted again to this cohort. There's been some great research done to inform this campaign, including speaking with young drivers and what impacts them and what type of message will actually resonate. So what you'll see from this campaign is a reflection of reverting back to relying on your parents with an adult head, as you can see here, on effectively a baby body, and there's a certain number of scenarios that we're focusing on the first instance. So our message is, young drivers, it's a great feeling to get your licence. It's great to be able to drive yourselves around. Don't be that person that makes a silly error on the road or takes risks on the road that results in you losing your licence, or in fact causing the death of another person on our roads. Most importantly, losing your licence is probably the best thing that can happen to a young person if they do engage in risky behaviour, because what we also know in 2024, younger drivers who are found to be at fault in crashes resulted in 11 lives lost on South Australian roads and over 100 serious injuries. So please, younger drivers in particular for this campaign, pay attention to what you're doing on the road. Don't take unnecessary risks. Be extra careful while you're still developing your driving skills, because if you lose your licence, it sucks to be you.
Can you tell us how long it takes for someone to develop their driving skills? Like, how inexperienced are these drivers?
Look, the current system where learner drivers go and experience the training, they have driving hours, they have to achieve minimum number of driving hours. They also have to pass an assessment, an on-road assessment, as well as to be eligible to have a licence so they can drive by themselves. But younger drivers still are inexperienced in terms of the time that they spend on the road, adjusting their driving to the conditions. And what we're finding in some of the research is, and certainly the behaviours that we see, particularly around drink and drug driving and speeding and things like that, younger drivers sometimes appear to feel like they're invincible, and the euphoria or the excitement of having a licence perhaps overtakes their judgment in some cases, which is why we see particularly younger men losing their licence at much higher rates than other people in other categories.
When we think of road safety campaigns, they're often quite graphic. This one is quite humbling, really. Do you think humbling the younger generation is the way to cut the cord?
I wouldn't necessarily describe this campaign as humbling. What I would say is that this campaign is embarrassing for people who have actually lost their licence. If you think of a relative in the 16 to 24 age bracket, male, you think about their sense of pride, their ability to drive themselves around, be independent, you would instantly recognise what type of impact that losing their licence would have, particularly if they've got to suffer through the embarrassment of having mum or dad drive them to sport or footy practice, having a mate having to drive them and pick them up from social events and things like that, let alone the embarrassment amongst their work colleagues if they're having to be driven by a work colleague or take extra time to get to work because they have to go back on the public transport.
All the babies are male, as you said, so are the young offenders overwhelmingly male?
Yeah, the reason that this campaign is all male figures in this particular instance is because young men are significantly overrepresented in both loss of licence and also how much they contribute to lives lost and serious injuries on our roads. We know that younger men generally are risk takers and they're prepared to take risks sometimes in their ordinary course of life. Unfortunately, too many young men are prepared to take risks when they're in a car. You know, we've spoken previously in other campaigns about cars being a one-tonne bullet. You put that into play with an inexperienced driver, in them when they're starting to take risks as well, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Is there a particular age group that is triggering most of the fatal crashes that are happening each year, or is it mixed?
So each year we do see certain trends in lives lost on our roads. So far this year there have been 37 lives lost on South Australian roads. Younger drivers are generally overrepresented in lives lost. In more recent times we have seen the older age group overrepresented as well, so 70 and over is certainly a category that worries us. We do have specific marketing and road safety campaigns that already exist for older drivers. We also have campaigns like Selfish Prick, which was directly targeted at older males who will engage in risk-taking behaviour around drink driving. This campaign follows that trend of really trying to segment the market here and really make the message that we're trying to put out there targeted to a specific cohort. In this case, this marketing campaign is targeted to 16 to 24-year-olds, particularly males, who we know from all the research we've done and also the statistics that are overrepresented in losing their licence and taking risks on our roads.
We have some of the worst fatality stats in the country when it comes to young drivers. Why is that?
Young drivers, as I've said, and I don't want to paint everybody with the same, message here or the same brush, because there certainly are a lot of young drivers out there who do drive responsibility. They do recognise their own limitations. But unfortunately, what we do know is that the reason that younger drivers between 16 and 24, particularly males, the reason we do know that these people are overrepresented is because the risk-taking behaviour and the stats that we have, the numbers of loss of licence say so. You know, there's 80% of males in the 16 to 24-year age group are the ones that have had an immediate loss of licence in 2024. They're the ones who are taking risks on our roads.
Are you hoping there's going to be some cut through with friendship groups, you know, friends holding themselves, each other accountable? You know, you've got the football team there, that this message is spread across community groups, friendship groups, sporting groups?
Yeah, I mean, different cohorts will have a different approach to how they actually talk with their friends and colleagues about this. I can certainly see instances where there'll be young people perhaps having a drink at a bar and someone's thinking about driving when they shouldn't, and their mates will hold them to account about, sucks to be you. We certainly hope and think that this, based on the research we've done for this campaign, that message will really cut through. What we hope is that none of these younger drivers between 16 to 24 end up in a situation where they lose their life or cause the death of somebody else on our road. And if they do take risks, we will be out there and they will lose their licence.
There's been plenty body of research in recent years which has seen a reduction in alcohol use in younger generations. Are you finding that it's still a major problem when it comes to road safety, alcohol abuse?
Yeah, drink and drug driving continues to be one of the fatal 5 issues that we do know contributes to lives lost and serious injuries on our roads. As part of this campaign research, including focus groups with younger people, the targets of this particular messaging, we do know that there still is unacceptably high levels of risk-taking by individuals, particularly when it comes to drink and drug driving. And that's why part of this messaging is very much tailored around that message and also the fact that we know younger male drivers are more likely to lose their licence than other drivers.
Thank you.
Thank you.